Elon is at the moment running the American government. So, he's busy,
Is that foreshadowing? Are you saying in a battle between Ramaphosa and Elon Musk, Mr. Ramaphosa, you're going to lose?
Is that a joke? Elon would just go...
You're watching WORLDVIEW, the #1 media company where we explore everyone's perspectives on all things that can broaden our worldview. Dr. Frans Cronje warns that apartheid-style sanctions can be the next thing to hit South Africa. He says that the South African government desperately need to start taking the US, Donald Trump and Elon Musk very, very seriously. This all comes in the backdrop after Trump has cut off most, if not all, aid to South Africa and offering Afrikaners persecuted by race-based policies or land grabs refugee status. The leader of Doge and the richest person in the world, Elon Musk, has this weekend taken to attack Julius Malema, calling for criminal sanctions against him and also attacking Andile from Black First Land First. At this point in time, it's almost impossible to predict what is going to happen next. Now, who better to help us unpack all of this than the father of the rebel rouser himself, Errol Musk, a successful businessman, engineer, former politician for the Progressive Federal Party. Very interesting. Errol has definitely made a name for himself, and perhaps the only reason why we refer to him as the father of Elon Musk is because his son has become so damn powerful. So Errol, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I just want to say one thing, if I can, for your audience. Sure. The last time I stood for the PFP was in Sunnyside in Pretoria against the National Party candidate. And at 6 p.m. in the evening, along came Willie Marais, who was chairman of the HNP. And Willie Marais got out of his cars. There were a lot of cars, came with a lot of people. He got on a concrete block at the school and addressed the press and everyone. And he said, I've come to vote for the PFP for the first and the last time. I'm voting for a man, not for the PFP. I'm voting for Errol Musk. That was Willie Marais, head of the HNP. So your audience needs to digest that. And I was not a PFP city councillor of Pretoria. I was an independent councillor with my own thoughts. I did not go along with everything that the PFP had in mind. However, I did feel that, apartheid needed treatment. It was what we inherited from at the tail end of all the colonial countries. They all had apartheid. Every single one. India still has apartheid. Every single colonial country was run on apartheid lines. We just happened to be the second last, or rather the last. The second last was Rhodesia, and then it came our turn. So, it's not like we invented it or anything like that.
Yeah, okay. Interesting. That's interesting way to put it, and obviously a correct way to put it. I think.
And one other thing,
okay, go ahead.
The people that are suffering now are not only Afrikaners. They are, let me say, I think we're all Afrikaners in one way or another, but it's also the people who speak English in South Africa, like yourself, who are of Scottish descent. So it's not just Afrikaners, 2/3 of my family, by the way, are Afrikaans. What it's worth. I mean, call themselves Afrikaans.
Yeah.
Robenheimers van, ik kan niet al die namen onthou nie. Anyway, carry on.
Okay, Errol. To put the question bluntly, should we blame AfriForum for this recent fallout, or should we blame the South African government?
No. I mean, the new expropriation law is very, very broad. The alterations they made to the original 1975 Act are quite clear. They can basically expropriate anything they want without compensation. They made it quite clear themselves on numerous occasions in Parliament. Several of the speakers, including the minister at the time, got up and said, I want to make this clear. We can expropriate anything we like without compensation. That was quite recently. So now they are backpedaling and saying, no, we'll never do that. But I think it's high time that people stood up for themselves. I mean, the black people are complaining that they are. I've been on a very big black radio station over the weekend, and before that also on other things with the black media, and they express immediately that they feel that this is a very unequal society that we're living in. That's their point of view. It's almost diametrically opposed to what we are saying. We are saying we are sufferers. They are saying this is in a totally unequal society. The problem is that everywhere where black people live in the world, it's exactly the same. They are the ones who are unequal. So it doesn't matter where they go in the world, they are the ones that are unequal. So I think we should face up to that. It doesn't help pretending or something. If you go to an American city where it's all run down and broken and low lights and others, you know right away this is a black area. If you go to a place where all the lights work, no holes in the street, flowers in the sides, grass all neat and cut, you know it's not a black area. So I'm talking the truth. You know, I'm an engineer. I mean, engineers think about making sense of things. So, in fact, the blacks are, wherever you go, they're the unequal part. And their idea of equality is that somehow we must take what we've got, what we've worked for ourselves, and we must kind of give it to them. You know? So I was reading yesterday about expropriation that's taken place in South Africa so far. And of the farms that have been expropriated with compensation, in each case, 90% of them are now defunct. And the remaining 10% are being operated by white contractors. So does that make sense to you? So 90% of those that were expropriated, they defunct farms. And the 10% that are remaining are operating somewhat under white contractor ownership, or not ownership, white contractors for the ownership, which is black owned. You know, we know from Zimbabwe and other places that if you look at what happened in Zimbabwe, which used to be a breadbasket of Africa and the world, the 16th biggest food producing country in the world was little Zimbabwe, little Rhodesia. Today it produces nothing. In the town in which I live on the west coast of the Cape, which is several little towns in a row here, there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of Zimbabweans, no local blacks. They're all here to try and get work, to send money back to their families. We have to face up to reality. It's no good. This Malema guy, you know, the things he says, he must rather say it in front of me, you know, man to man. I'll put one arm behind my back and one leg too.
I'm sure you're probably not making an argument that there's something wrong with the black race. You're making a sort of a cultural argument, upbringing argument.
Yes. They have their own qualities. Their own qualities allowed them to expand to a number of 250,000. When the white people went into Rhodesia, there were 250,000 black people in two tribes there that were made up of the Zulu portion that moved up there and the indigenous portion. And today there have until recently been about 8 million. So under the white Rhodesian country of nearly 100 years, they grew in number astronomically. In South Africa, at the turn of the 1900s, 19th century, 1900, 1901 and so on, there were 800,000 black people in the whole of South Africa. You know, there were 400,000 whites, coloreds, and Indians. Within 100 years, there were 50 million black people, but still only 4 million blacks, coloreds, whites, coloreds, and Indians. So the whites, coloreds, and Indians showed a steady but slow growth. But the black people growth was exponential. And that can be put down, as I'm an engineer, to good food good medical treatment, an improvement in everything for them, and probably to a large extent, the stopping of intertribal warfare. And I would say that I know about tribal warfare because when I was a young engineer, I was given work to provide electrical power in the Transkei. And we're going back a very, very long time to like 1971. And I was about 24, 25. The year Elon was born. And I was given this job to go down there. And the Transkei Corporation told me we can't go to a certain area because last night or the night before, the other crowd had come over with axes and killed the other crowd. And so they're just dispensing with everybody, the bodies. So we can't go there that night, that day. We have to go in another day. So with the emergence of law and order, you might say, or European style law and order in South Africa, these people were, I imagine, stopped from, although this was in 1971, they were still doing it, but the Transkei was a little bit independent. But we didn't put up with, tribal warfare because there are, in fact, something like 11 different tribes in South Africa. And so we know, everybody knows the Zulus and the Khoisos don't get on. They don't work together.
Yeah.
So in any case, the bottom line is that the black population has grown huge under, you could call it, white civilization. Now they want to go back. And of course, if you go up to Zambia now, which I do a lot, and you go up to Zimbabwe, I haven't been there very recently, but anyway, their populations are starting to shrink back towards the 250,000. So if you wait another number of years, Zimbabwe will have 250,000 people. They will lose nearly 8 million people as they go along, assuming that America doesn't bail them out every 5 minutes.
And do you think the Democratic Alliance understands this problem?
Very weak party, very kissy-arsy party, No. You need men to run a party. It has to be strong men. And you can't, they're not strong men. But given the chance, I know that Mr. Windy here in the Cape, it's a good premier, it's a good man. He doesn't do a bad job. But generally, the party as a whole over the country is, it's not very strong, not what I'd call a strong group of people, no.
Some would say Ellen Zille is a very strong person.
No. Ella was a little girl at NewsSAS when I was a kid, I was a director of NewsSAS. Little Helen Zille, she was in NewsSAS as well. What a joke. But under the circumstances in South Africa, because the men just chucked in the towel, she wound up as premier. She's an ex-NewsSAS type. No, and obviously wants South Africa to be nice. Everybody wants it to be nice. Unfortunately, we're faced with reality now. We're not in the, sorry, we'll give you everything you want mode anymore because Donald Trump is coming to power. So for the first time, America is realizing, wait a minute, and 80% of the people are behind Trump in America. Believe me, I've just been there. I mean, everybody. The kids are walking in the streets with red MAGA hats on everywhere you look. Little kids, they're selling Trump sweets in sweet shops. They sold out. So, we have, for the first time, unless some horrible thing happens, we have, which we pray doesn't happen, we have common sense and proper leadership back in the world. And all the European countries are going to follow suit. They have to, because their populations are not putting up with the rubbish that they've had to put up with so far, that call themselves the government. You see, in private enterprise countries, or in any country where you can earn a living, nobody really wants to go into politics. Now, I went into politics as a young boy because I wanted to work for my city. In my work, I was a consulting engineer trying to make a profit, trying to make a living and buy a nice house and all that sort of stuff. But at the same time, I wanted to work. I wanted to know why the city doesn't have nice things here, nice things there. And they said, well, if you want, you must join the council. So I did. But as soon as I got on the council, I found that for 3 nights a week, I sat in front of a pile of papers this high, 3 nights a week until 11 o'clock, going through things that were so ridiculously silly that no one wants to do that. The number of things that were interesting was like almost 1% maybe of everything was interesting. The rest was not interesting. So that's what, it means to be in politics. If I go on, I think of, for example, Dubai, where I was invited recently by the Sheikh of Dubai. Dubai is the most enlightened government system I've ever seen. There's no democracy. There are no elections. The country is run by 1 million Emiratis. And there are about 12 million cosmopolitan everybody else. And that country runs like a well-oiled machine. Now, what am I saying? I'm not saying that you shouldn't have people at the bottom, democracy and everything. But I must say, Churchill said, if you want to know what democracy is about and whether you would believe in it, just spend 5 minutes with the average voter. And then you may have another idea about democracy. And then, of course, originally democracy was intended for the patriarchs of the community, not for every Tom, Dick, and Harry who just turned 18 or 16 or whatever it is, Yeah, so South Africa is facing uphill now. It's wrong that Americans must pay $500 million for people here who've got AIDS, because so many people here have got AIDS, because apparently I'm told if you want sex here in South Africa, you just see somebody walking along. You say, hey, in the bush there with me. Then you go, So now they've all got AIDS. So now I don't see why Americans who sometimes have to have 2 jobs must work. They pay their tax for these people's treatment. I don't get that. But Elon said to me the other day that, Dad, of that $500 million, we estimate 10% reaches where it's supposed to go in South Africa. So of the $500 million, about 50 million, which is a lot of money, reaches where it's meant to go. The rest is going into HIV treatment centers in people's pockets. So they've got these little HIV treatment centers in their pockets, and that's where the money's going, if you get my drift.
Okay, but Errol, what's the solution? If it's not the Democratic Alliance, if it's not the ANC, if it's not the GNU, I understand your sort of international arguments, but...
It's a very good question. One of the good things to say is that in many ways today, we don't sit with the same level of racism or sort of blatant racism that we seemed to have long ago. When I was a kid, I mean, we don't really have whites, blacks. Yeah, nobody here, nobody's allowed there. In fact, South Africa is probably at a very good place. In fact, racism almost doesn't exist here. I see more racism when I go overseas to certain places. And so, where it's not between blacks and whites, it's between different other groups, if you know what I mean. And so, and certainly, in the Arab countries, the treatment of women is very striking to me as strange, men only, no women, men only, no women. That kind of thing is kind of weird. But, so we are at a very good position now where we don't hesitate. In 1972, I was on television in America as a young boy, being interviewed as the only English-speaking city councillor of Pretoria for 30 years. And they asked me, what's it like in South Africa? So I said, well, this is how it is in South Africa. And a lot of people were phoning in. They had to take me out of that building through the basement. I said, this is how it is in South Africa. You do not shake a black man's hand. You just do not. Nobody does that. Why? I said, I don't know. I think maybe they are scared of germs. I don't know. I'm not sure why, but you just don't shake a white man's hand, a black man's hand. And they said to me, what else? I said, well, if you come home and you find that your maid has used your knives and forks and your cups and saucers from your kitchen, then you throw them away. Or you give them to her and tell her to take them, if you know what I mean. So that's how it was. The people went crazy at that time. Said, how can that be possible? Of course, it's always been like that for hundreds of years. You know, it's been like that for hundreds of years in most places in the world. In 1920, Holland allowed for the first time black people to enter the country. 1920. Simon van der Stel, who was a colored governor of the Cape from Batavia in the Far East, he was a colored. Great. He was a very intelligent man. And he built Constantia. But he was not allowed to go to Holland. He wasn't allowed in Holland. So these kind of things have gone. So now today, we have no problem. We all go, we shake hands, we even hug, we do all kinds of things. We sit in restaurants with each other. We invite them around. They invite us around. So it's really, really nice that things have improved so much. And they don't have germs. They are very nice. Most of them are cleaner than what we are. If I may say, a lot of them anyway are cleaner than we are, certainly the OCs. But yeah, so things have improved a great deal. But at the same time, this thing of theirs, where they keep on saying that they must get other people's property because of apartheid and all that sort of stuff. No. The other aspect I'd say is that I know that this country's state-owned land is huge. There's 40% of this country's land is owned by the government. So why don't they just give farms to these people? Why don't they just say, there's a tract, go and farm it? You see, why not? Why can't you do that? Why do you have to take a highly successful farm that's been running for 80 years in a Free State under a group of people that work from 2 o'clock in the morning sometimes and then take it away from them? How can you do that? That's crazy. Apart from the fact that we'll soon find, just like in Zimbabwe, that we've got no food.
Okay. I see the next prospective ambassador to South Africa has said that the solution in his mind is what's happening in the Western Cape needs to be replicated across South Africa. Federalism. But another former US representative has said that's not the solution. Because if you do that, if you give more power to the provinces, a place like the Western Cape is going to become like a utopia. Everyone in South Africa, if not the entire Africa, is going to flee to the Western Cape. He says the best thing to do is just to go for full-out independence. Now, what do you think of that?
Well, a lot of talk goes around that, and I've had quite a lot of people now, quite a lot of people from about 5 or 6 years already come to see me, ask me to support it, and all that kind of thing, you know. And if you, on a lighter note, you know, when they came to see me about Cape independence, they showed me the flag that they wanted to use for Cape independence. And it was actually a Union Jack. This was the Engelse vlag, the English flag. Yeah. But they took out the Red Cross and they left a whole lot of other things. But if you look at it quick, then you see it's actually the Union Jack. You know, if you look quickly, it's exactly the same as the Union Jack. I said to them, tell me, what is your IQ? You know, what is your EQ? Your EQ, what is Afrikaans? EQ.
Yeah, EQ.
The guy says to me, what do you mean? I said, well, listen, whoever came up with that flag, he must have the record lowest IQ on earth. He should go in the Guinness Book of Records, because no one that I know on the west coast of South Africa, or the Cape, I mean, is going to vote for a party whose flag is the Union Jack. I mean, give me a break. So they're a bunch of silly people, from what I saw. But if you take the general idea of the Cape being independent, look, for hundreds of years, for 200 years, the Cape was totally independent of South Africa. So we had the Cape Colony. And then later on, you got in 1841, you got the Natal Colony. And then, as you know, in 1854, you got the Transvaal Republic. And that was followed by a couple of other little republics, Schweizer, Reinicke, and Graf something or other. And then there was the Free State that was declared, also separate. So for most of the last couple of hundred years, or more than a couple of hundred years, a little more than a couple of hundred years, there've been an independent Cape. So it's not like it's a new thing. The only time that the Cape has been part of South Africa is since 1910. So it's not totally unacceptable for any of these regional republics to declare themselves independent again. There's nothing wrong with it. If it's sensible, well, it's difficult to say. As you said earlier on, South Africa is streaming with black people, not from South Africa alone, but from all over Africa, streaming down here, because here they can knock on a door and they can get 300 rands a day. In their own countries, they can't even make 3 rands a month. And I'll tell you why I know that, because it wasn't long ago that we were employing, myself and several other guys were employing people on the Zambezi River to build a fishing camp for us. And the workers' wages were 3 rands a month. And the bosses, the captains, were 10 rands a month. Wow. And the chief was 30 rands a month. And that turned out that in their money was 1,500 kwachas, which enabled the Zambians with 1,500 kwachas, or 3 rands, to buy for 10 rands a bag of maize meal, a big bag of maize meal with a big American flag on it, which said, "Gift of the people of the United States to the people of the Zambian Republic." And the Zambian government sold that to the people for 2 rands. In fact, it was a gift, but they sold it to them. And with the other money, the other 1 rand, which is 500 kwachas, they could buy fish, which is made from little kapenta fish, which they haul out of Lake Tanganyika by the ton. And with a bag of fish meal and a bag of mealie meal, they could live for a whole month. Otherwise, they starve. We also paid bonuses for extra work done. So if they did work beyond their scope, they received an extra 5 to 10 rands. So that the average worker, this was about 15 years ago, the average worker would get otherwise nothing. They were starving when we came along there. They were eating bulrushes. Otherwise, the average worker would get in kwachas about 20,000 kwachas in the course of, if you put in a lot of extra things, because they cut wood for us and so on and so forth. And so that made them rich. It made them actually quite rich. It sounds terrible. But as I sit here right now, if you could get a job in Zimbabwe, you'd be lucky if you got $10 a month, 10 US a month, right now. That's why they stream down here, because here they can make $30 a day. In Zim, $10 a month. Work it out. That's why they're here. And you know how they get here? They walk, or they take a bus. They suffer to get here. They never see their children for a year at a time, just so that they can come and work for the white people in this area. Because black people don't employ black people. They don't employ black people. So hard, but very, you're talking to the white Malema.
Yeah, well, the reason why I mentioned this, isn't Cape Independence the middle way in this drama? Because the Afrikaners, at least the leadership, don't seem like they want to leave South Africa. but the United States want to help. So isn't fighting for Cape independence the rational middle way that both parties are satisfied, that the Afrikaners stay in South Africa and the United States still provides help, assistance, and get what they want?
It's possible, it's possible. But remember, you talk about Afrikaners. Fair enough, a lot of them are Afrikaners. But taking our white farmers out of this country to let them go and farm, a lot of them have gone, and some of my friends have gone to farm in Canada. The Dutoys, who used to own where the Dutoys Curve tunnel is, in the biggest tunnel in Africa. That family, the Dutoys, they all live in Canada. They sold the whole X River Valley and they moved to Canada. And so losing our farmers, to me, if I'm going to stay here, that's not such a good idea. We need to keep these guys here. You know, we really don't want them to go. But for them, it's a very wise thing if they do go, because they will, over there, they won't struggle to feed their families. I've got a 30-year-old daughter in America. She earns 300,000 rands a month. I mean, she's 30. She's a vice president, Elon's sister. She doesn't work for Elon, she works for herself. She's 30 years old. How on earth? Here in South Africa, if she was living here, she'd be getting 7,000 rands a month or something, you know, working for Checkers or something, you know what I mean? No. So it would be, anybody who does go, they've made a good decision, but it's wrong for us to lose these people. I said to the black people on the radio the other day, the black people think, well, if all the white people, I wake up tomorrow and all the white people are gone, oh, that'll be nice. And then the white people also thinking, if I wake up tomorrow, all the black people will be gone. But the truth is, we actually need each other in this country. We need each other. We need the blacks. The whites need the blacks need the whites. There's no reason for this continual fighting or being funny with each other all the time. There's no reason for it. There's no reason. And coming to your question of what a solution is, I was very friendly in the 80s and 70s with John Foster. He used to call me Boet, and P.W. Botha, who used to call me Mr. Musk. I don't know why, because I was just a kid. But at any rate, I knew them quite well. And they were really struggling, especially P.W. Botha, to find a solution for South Africa. I mean, all of the 80s, they were trying to find a solution, whether people want to believe it or not. They were trying to find a solution, just like you are talking about now. What is the solution? They just couldn't work out a solution, and they're trying. And then de Klerk came along and he said, well, the solution is we've got to release Mandela, which is the wrong thing to do in the first place, I think. To even imprison him. I mean, it shouldn't have been in prison for so long. And then we should have new elections and all that sort of stuff. So for a long time, people in South Africa have been looking for a solution. The solution now to even break South Africa up even more, to go back to the old Cape colony, well, it's probably will work. But again, they all will want to come here for work. They will all be at the borders struggling for work, to try and get work, if you know what I mean. And what are we going to do? So if you go to Cape Town now, to Langa and these places out there, other side Muizenberg, the shacks stretch for as far as I can see. As far as you can see, that's how many shacks there are. It's like 3 million people there, or something like that. Or maybe I'm wrong, but it looks like there's 3 million people there. And they're all here already to just work for the white man. They don't give jobs to each other. They all come to work for the white man. That's the honest truth. That's the honest truth. That's the honest truth. And it's very unfortunate.
Yeah.
But that's the way it is.
Yeah. Errol, talk to me about Mr. Starmer, Keir Starmer. It seems like both you and your son have issues with this new UK Prime Minister. It's crazy. It seems like crazy things are happening there. People are being arrested for Facebook posts.
Yes, they put about 3,000 people in prison for up to 3 years because they posted on Facebook that they want their country back. And so England also went down in the last number of years with all this pressure on white people or people who work, that they're bad, they must now give up everything to others and all this kind of nonsense. And so they lost their masculinity. They just don't know what to say anymore. And so what's happening? These governments are getting the instructions from Davos, from this crowd there who want to have cities that are only 300,000, and they must all be workers, and they must be able to be moved from city to city. This is now Davos's plan, and the world will be ruled by 300 people, and so forth. And so they're getting the instructions, these European countries, these weak governments are getting the instructions from Davos, and they're doing terrible things to their own country, like bringing in millions or hundreds of thousands in the UK's case, certainly millions probably, and millions in America of illegal immigrants, putting them in 4-star hotels. In my own case, I've been to England quite a lot. It's only in recent years I can afford a 4-star hotel, maybe. Do you understand? But they're putting these illegal immigrants into 4-star hotels and giving them all sorts of presents and everything. Well, this is crazy. This is crazy. And that's what these people are objecting to. And for that, they are put in prison. And then the prisoners that are in the prisons, because the prisons were full in the first place, they let the prisoners who are murderers and rapists and bank robbers and everything, they let them all go. And then they put these people. So, I mean, I think I must rather discuss that one with my 7-year-old son. I've got a 7-year-old son. He only speaks Afrikaans. So you'd have to forgive me there. But at any rate, I'd have to speak to him and ask him, what does he think about that idea? And I'm pretty sure that he would say it's a stupid idea in UK, if you know what I mean. No. So Starmer is a joke. He's got to go, and he's going to go. You see, what's happened now with Trump being elected, that's like a domino effect. So now you're going to see the domino effect, and it's going to run right through Europe. The AfD is going to take Germany, already Italy's in the hands of that pretty blonde woman, Georgia. I don't know what his surname is. I just see her, say, hey, I'd like to meet you. And then France will fall when Macron and his boyfriend are kicked out, and so on. So it's only a matter of time that things will change. So probably in this year still. Starmer should be out this month. I reckon he's going to be out this month. 3 or 4 months ago, I said Starmer should be out this month. I mean, the guy's a joke. It's an absolute joke. They've been raping Muslim gangs have had a plan to rape English girls. Where they have a plan. And then they gang raped these girls. And then it was found out about. This was found out about years ago. And then they hid it all away. So people didn't know about it. Now everybody knows about it. But now they want an inquiry into it. But now Starmer and his 300 MPs, they say MPs that were elected by luck, actually, because nobody voted in this last election. They didn't see the point. So they said, well, I can't vote for the Conservatives because they're the Labour with a blue jacket. Whereas Conservatives Labour's got a red jacket, but the Conservatives got the same jacket, just blue. So they didn't know what to do, so they didn't vote. So the result was...
well, the only reason the Labour Party got more seats is they actually got less votes, but the other parties were split between Reform and...
Well, nobody quite knew what was going on. And so you probably know more about it than I do, but I just know that people there have told me, because I'm on London television, English television a lot, and they've told me that this election was a sort of something. It all went wrong, and they need to have another election. And of course, if you have another election, they need to know who they're going to vote for. So, personally, I came to the conclusion that this Farage guy is all right. He speaks nice, speaks well, he's sensible, but he's not a strong man. He's not a strong man. And you need strong men there, and And Elon came out 2 days later without me even speaking to Elon, and said Farage is no good because he doesn't want the right guy is Tommy Robinson. You know, he's a man, and they've got him in solitary confinement for 18 months because he didn't turn up to a court session. That's called political prisoner. You know, that's called. There was a guy who was good at that, Beria in communist Russia. He did that a lot, you know, to people. He was killed himself in the end. They executed him too. But I'm just joking there for a while. But no. Tommy Robinson is the type of person they need to.
Yeah, but isn't he quite a controversial figure? Doesn't he have very radical opinions against Islam?
No. I mean, if by meaning radical, he doesn't want his country taken over and made into a Muslim country. Is that radical?
I suppose not.
No, that's not radical. So, you know, I mean, if you don't want your country taken over by a foreign culture that says that all Christians must die, and that it's all right to kill Christians, and so on, that's in their book, you know, then, although a lot of them are nice people, of course, they don't do that. But if that's in their book and they're coming to your country and, you know, and they're raping your little little girls, and they've got plans to do that and they're gang raping them, then I think I would also kind of say, hey, wait a minute, you know, I think I would also then be radical, probably be considered radical and say, no, I don't want these guys here anymore. You know, that would be what I would say. No, we don't need that. We don't want them. And, you know, I mean, you know, they go to the little villages in England, the beautiful little villages, and they say to the villagers there, the villagers, the men and women in the village who've been there all their lives and they've made that beautiful village for so long, then they say to them, they get them at the city hall there, and they say to them, we're going to build a mosque in your little village. Tell us about your dream mosque. What is your dream mosque? And they all sit there and look, what is our dream mosque in the village? Yes, do you want one with big white towers? So we don't want any mosques in our village. We don't have any mosque. So I don't know where you live, but you know, you may have a dream mosque that you imagine in your village, but most people don't want that, you see. So it's actually ridiculous. So they've let these people into this country, and the same people, if you went to their country, which I've just spent 2 weeks in the Emirates, which is a very enlightened government, by the way, very, very smart people, very refined Arab people, also Muslims, but they are very kind and decent people. But honestly, the women don't join you in things, you know, they separate from women. I mean, the rules that they have are kind of weird for us, generally speaking. And they have rules like, for example, if you are homosexual, then they give you the highest floor in the building to throw you from. In other words, they throw you off buildings. You're not, you know, they don't accept anything like that. So it's crazy that the people that in England and places like that are inviting these people in, whose culture and ideas is very, very different. You know, in England itself, there have been many, many cases of little Arab girls who went out with an English boyfriend or an Englishman, you know, and the parents' solution to that was, you cut your daughter's throat. So that's happened quite a lot, because that's quite difficult to comprehend, if you understand. It's really difficult to comprehend that type of thinking. So that type of murder or killing has happened. And so inviting people into that country who are totally different in their outlook to yours is I don't know if it's insane. I think it means you haven't got a brain at all. I mean, insane at least suggests you've got a brain that's not working well. But I would say it means you haven't got a brain. You just got an empty head.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but I think the danger here is we need to separate the race from the ideology. and not get in a situation where there's a Muslim Holocaust?
Look, if you take, you talk about Afrikaners, or I would like to say South African white people, let's say, that's all of us. You know, I went to an Afrikaans university, but I speak English at home. My wife is Afrikaans. So, you know, it's like a mixture. So we're the same. And if these, like people like me and you and her and everything, that go to America, they Christian, we Christian, it takes about 3 months for any South African to be in America. This I can promise you. Within 3 months of being in America, when you're asked where you're from, you say, I'm from uptown. Or you say, I'm from downtown. Or you say, I'm from over on the west side. It takes 3 months. But for the first 3 months, you say, I'm from South Africa. It takes 3 months. So for 3 months, you say, when they say, where are you from? You say, I'm from South Africa. And then the people say, Africa? How come you don't look like a black? You know, that's like, you get rid of it. You get tired of that. So it takes literally 3 months for a South African to be in America, to be asked where he comes from. He says, I'm from the west side, or I'm from down by the beach. In other words, they assimilate immediately, almost immediately, you know, and which is sad, because I get asked by many people that I go there. I've got a little place in Austin, in Texas, and my whole family lives there in the town. I mean, in the city, and you know, I go there and I meet other South Africans, and I'm sort of always hoping that when I'm there that they'll like say something that I like to hear, but they don't. They talk about just about America, their own stuff, and I say to them, you know, do you ever go back, or don't you remember South Africa? You know, don't you miss Benoni? Or something like that, and so on, you know, and then they don't even listen to me because they get assimilated so quickly. Yeah. But when you bring, assuming you brought a whole lot of people from England, you know, and you took them out of Sheffield or something, 10,000, and you put them in Mecca or in, you know, I don't know, Jeddah or somewhere there like that, you know, and you plonk them down, or in Kabul or somewhere, and they set themselves up, you know, in a little group and made sure nobody comes their way, and they put up a big church and put up all their flags, and they started running around with shotguns, killers and everything that they found, or rape Arab girls. I don't think the Arabs would take it. I think they would say, no, hey, wait a minute. These English people must go back to Sheffield. You know what I mean? It's not rocket science. It's not rocket science. The point of the matter is they will never join in with the Arabs. They will always remain what they are. And the same there in England, the Arab groups that have formed little towns of their own, and in Sweden, I believe as well, which are called no-go areas in Sweden now. No-go. You can't go there anymore for Swedes, that are just Arab places. This is weird. This is crazy. Nobody does that. Nobody does that. It's like asking for the biggest trouble you can.
Yeah. So, Errol, I see we're running out of time. This has been so interesting. A great perspective, new perspective, international perspective, not a traditional South African perspective on what's going on. And we covered a lot of subjects. Is there anything else you want to add, or before we conclude?
Yes, well, I would say, if people keep the right attitude in South Africa and don't give up, if you believe in if you believe in yourself and you believe in what you're saying, don't just turn around when somebody tells you something else that you just say, oh, okay. No, it's wrong. Many of the things that are going on in this country are wrong. I said to Cyril Ramaphosa the other day that there should be white people in the government. There shouldn't be only black ministers. All right, we have a bit of, with the last election, you know, where before the election, Ramaphosa wanted me to ask Elon to give the ANC a thumbs up. That was in May last year. And I said, no, We're not giving the ANC a thumbs up. And in fact, last week I arranged for Ramaphosa to speak to Elon. It was broadly reported. But at any rate, I said, you can't think like that anymore. You've got to think, who's the best person to do this job? You know what I mean? And you'll find that people aren't like looking down on each other anymore. You know what I mean? I've met a lot of black women, especially, I'd say, but also a lot of black men in business affairs in the last couple of years or so. That absolutely amazed me how on the ball they are, if you know what I mean, with the project. I'm talking about profit-making projects, really on the ball. And that's impressed me a lot. So things can be much better. And it doesn't necessarily mean that if you put somebody in charge of the police or some important department or health or something like that, just because he's a white guy, he's gonna like not look after everybody. Obviously, he's gonna run the thing properly. We don't at the moment have functioning government departments. We have semi-functioning departments. We also don't have an airline. We don't have a railway line. We don't have a post office. We don't have home affairs. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. The banks last year issued passports for me to travel. A bank passport. This is crazy, because the Home Affairs couldn't do it. This is insane, really insane. So, but I would say to the people that you must stick with what you believe in. Don't give up. I said on the black TV or in American TV the other day, when they asked me, they said to me, "You're so lucky." They said to me that when is
that a telephone?
Yeah, sorry.
Wow, that's impressive.
Last week on American TV, or so 2 weeks ago maybe, I was told on American LA TV, they said to me, South African white people are very lucky, they said to me, that Nelson Mandela, before the elections and before they had the open elections or whatever you call it, in 1994, then Nelson Mandela called on the black people not to take revenge. You see, this is what they said to me. Yeah. So I said, they said that? I said, Mandela said that? Mandela said that? They said, yes. I said, no. Mandela would have been really stupid to say something like that. Although it would be a very nice thing to say, maybe if he means it in a nice way. It'd be real stupid to say that, because South African men and women are not pussies. They're not going to run away. Yeah. Do you understand? They're not going to run away. So it would have been a very bad thing if anybody started taking revenge, because these guys on this side that I know, they're not going to sit back and let revenge get taken, if you understand what I mean. Yeah. And I said to them on the TV that 450 white men and women were attacked by 10,000 or more Zulus at Blood River. Not one white person was hurt. 6,000 blacks were killed. Go and work that one out. So one doesn't want to tempt people into proving themselves. But at the same time, I don't like it when people talk rubbish. You know what I mean? Yeah. You don't want to put people up against each other.
Is that foreshadowing? Are you saying in a battle between Ramaphosa and Elon Musk, Mr. Ramaphosa, you're going to lose?
That's a joke. Is that a joke?
No, I'm being serious.
No, well, Elon would just go, you see.
So it's like the giant stamping the ant, as it were.
No, he doesn't have to raise his hand or he just go. Give me a break. That's ridiculous. Elon is at the moment running the American government where it's needed to be run, let's say. Well, not only him, but I mean, he's doing it where it's on the front line. he's in the front line there. You see what I mean? So he's got a lot of people at the back. You know, all the majors and colonels and generals, of course, they're always at the back, you know. And then the Oak's on the front line.
Yeah.
So, you know, and he's busy, you know. So, yeah, no, it's working good there. Just a little Oakie from Pretoria. It's quite funny.
Well, great. Thank you, Errol. This has been amazing. Thank you so much. Bye, donkey.
Pleasure.
Bye, donkey.